Hello, everybody. This is Jeremy Estes, and we are about to kick off this how many of the world's most successful quizzes work webinar. You try saying that 5 times fast. I'm not even going to try here live. We're going to take a look behind the scenes at how some of the most successful quizzes online work. I'm going to show you guys some really cool examples on this call, and then we're going to I'm going to show you how some of them work inside a bucket, like how to go about building your own. So we're going to get this thing going. Real quick though, before I get too deep into this, let's make sure that everyone can hear me. So if you could please, in the chat or in the questions box, if you could just let me know if you can hear me. All right, looks like a few people. Scott, thank you. Mark, thanks. Ron, awesome. There's my man Des. All right, everybody, thank you for letting me know you can hear me. Cool. San Diego can hear me loud and clear. Awesome. And you can see too, right? I just want to make sure I've got this thing pulled up right. So you'll notice I'm not a GoToWebinar guru. I am here in C. Thanks, Ron. Scooter Libby wants to know if this will be recorded. Yes, it will. And this whole thing is going to be recorded. We'll make it available to you. So if you have to get off early, don't worry. We'll be putting this on our in our help section, and it'll be going out through email if you're registered. So, and a little bit of the mouse movement. Thanks, Scott. So, okay, guys, so let's jump right into this. I know it's kind of late for some of you, and I want to be respectful of your time. So just a real quick, just to let you understand what we're going to be talking about here. I know we've got a really cool title. It's super interesting. Once again, I just keep seeing a couple of people asking, this will be recorded. So if you have to leave, no big deal. This will be recorded. You'll have access to it later on. We're going to do a Q&A towards the end of this call too. So if you have questions, feel free to pump them into this into the chat. And let me see if I've got any of our support guys on here. Doesn't look like we have anyone support, so we'll be doing some Q&A live. Me, reading the questions out loud and answering them, hopefully, unless you stump the host, which feel free to do your best or your worst. That's what I'm here for. But the idea of this call is I'm going to walk you through some examples. We're going to look at some quizzes that are just performing like crazy. I've got one of a very, very large, $100 million, maybe even $1 billion plus company that's using a quiz. We're going to take a look at theirs. We're going to look at some that are using, Facebook traffic, Google traffic, and doing very well, high performing, generating a lot of leads and sales. And then like I said, we're going to look at the back end of it and see how would you go about making your own in bucket.io. All right. So one thing I want to point out or announce here at the beginning is that at the end of the call, I will offer the one-on-one calls. If you've never had one before, they're totally free. They let you you can jump on a schedule to talk to a bucket specialist like myself. Very likely you will talk to myself one-on-one about your account. And so if you stick around to the end of this call, I will put a link out so that you can jump on that schedule a 15-minute call if you need it. All right? So the objectives of this webinar, like I said before, I'm going to show you some examples, but what I really want to make sure you know is how to create a scoring quiz for yourself. So there's a couple of different types of quizzes. There's a scoring quiz, and then there's a variation kind of programmed quiz. I'll show you how to do both of those. You'll know how to use multi-outcome mapping. I'll show you how to use the variations feature inside of Bucket, and then you'll be able to understand branching logic. Okay, so these are a lot of the more advanced features inside the segmentation funnel. You may not have even seen them before, but by the time you get done here, you'll know where they're at and how to use them, and hopefully you can go out and build your own killer quiz. All right. So the most important thing that I tell everyone who's in a segmentation funnel, they're building a quiz, they're building an assessment, um, or just anything inside the segmentation funnel, what I always say is to start with the outcome. That confuses people. Like, what do you mean start with the outcome? What I mean is you want to start the planning process and even the building process inside of Bucket with the product or the thing that you sell. I've got an example we're going to walk through of Proactive. I've got another example of a tennis coaching business, and then yet another of a like a business consulting or business coaching assessment as well. But at the end of the day, what they all start with is the product or thing that you sell. Basically, the outcome. What is the person going to see? Because the one thing that makes a quiz successful is having more than one outcome, having a customized outcome. And what I mean by outcome page is, and here's an example of one. It's basically, like I said, it's the page with your offer on it. It could be your product, it could be your service, it could be anything where you're making your pitch for your offer. That's what I mean by an outcome or an outcome page. And so when you hear me reference outcome page, this is what I'm talking about. Here's an example of one by Proactive, which is an e-commerce company. They sell skincare products, right? And so this page is their oil control kit. They've got multiple products, or in their case, actually, it's less multiple products and more like multiple product configurations, which is even more cool if you've got an e-commerce store. You know, if you've got certain configurations, you could run a quiz and really boost the amount of your shopping cart value just by getting people to buy more product while they're there. So anyways, the ultimate goal here is that you are giving outcomes. You're sending people to these product pages or these service presentations, or even if it's just scheduling a call to get on the phone with you. At the end of the day, it's the outcome page is specific to the information that a user has entered, right? And like I said, we are going to walk through some examples of these. In fact, why don't I do that right now? Why don't I jump over to this Proactive so you can see what is this? How did we get this example, or how do we get to this outcome page? So let me see here. I think it's this one. Yeah. So if you've never seen a quiz before, what happens is, and I think it's on their homepage, they've got a link that says, hey, what's your skin type? Take the quiz now to find out. And the built-in bucket, this is what happens once they click start the quiz. The first question that they ask is, are you male or female? In my case, I would choose male. And then they would say, how would you describe your skin type? So in my case, let's just say oily, right? And then where do your breakouts mostly occur? And I can either say all over, my face, my chest, or my back. How often do you break out? Occasionally. And which of the following most concerns you? I would say something like, I don't know, wrinkles. And see what happens now. So I've answered all of those questions, and now what Proactive has done is, based on the answers that I gave them, they've taken me to this customized outcome page for their clarifying kit for anti-aging. Probably because I threw in the wrinkles there, and again, just based on the responses that I gave, that's how I came to this outcome. And I'm going to show you kind of like how this is built in Bucket here in a second, but just so you understand, like, this is what I mean by a multiple outcome page, and starting with the outcome in mind. If you go out and you think of all your products that you could possibly sell and start there, then that's how you build your quiz. By leading people, by asking them questions that will ultimately take them to this outcome page. Is this making sense so far to everybody? Let me pull up this chat box. I don't want to get too far in, and I don't want to leave anyone behind here. So I'm going to pull up. Looks like everything's making sense. Thanks, Irma. Christine, awesome. Got it. Ron, cool. So again, we're going to be covering a lot of space here. So this example here that we're talking about, this, as you guys can see, this is an e-commerce product. So what they did is they took all of the different configurations and the problems that they solved, and they built their quiz around it, so that by when someone answers the questions, they come to this different page. So they've got one for anti-aging. I think that example that we had on the slide here was for oil control. I know they've got a dry skin one. Again, they've got others, and that's how they built their quiz around. Now, another just quick example, while we're looking at examples here, is in this case, this is a tennis coach, and she offers a tennis coaching program that she sells online. So I think that, you know, like, she starts off selling like a video series, but I think ultimately it's some type of coaching to get you playing better tennis. She does the same thing here that Proactive does. Are you a man or a woman? So that starts the ball rolling, right? Now that you're a man, how old are you? So now what's happening is you're going to get the right type of coaching based on the information that you're filling in here. You've got the NTRP rating, which I don't play tennis, so I don't know what that means. I'm guessing mine is super low. Which of the following would you say you struggle with the most? So you see what's happening here, just like with Proactive. Now, as they're learning about you, the outcome that they're going to give you is getting closer and closer to your actual problem, right? So now we're getting closer, you know, putting in more information. Are you the type of person who's willing to try something new? Yes, why not? And so I'm just going to enter my, you see one of the differences here too is that this person, the tennis coach, asks for an email address, but the Proactive didn't. And my guess is because Proactive is less concerned about email addresses and more concerned with making that sell right off the bat. I don't know their exact model, but I do notice those two differences. So you don't have to ask for email address, but if you plan on marketing to your customers through email, then you can take their email address here. I'm just going to put a test email in. And basically what I wanted to do, looks like a video just starts playing right off the bat. But the thing that I wanted to point out here was we had chosen poaching as one of the issues that we have. And as you can see here, the outcome page is based on poaching. So what this coach does from this point is to sell us her coaching program, her training program, based on the problem that we have. Just like Proactive, giving us the exact product that solves the exact problem that we have. Versus, you know, hey, got problems with your tennis game? You know, buy my training program. No, you go through the quiz so that you can get the exact answer to your exact problem. Same thing with Proactive. They've got this huge line of products, and instead of forcing you to sit there and try to choose which one is best for you, they created the configurations around their market. And they have them go through the quiz to actually get to the outcome page, all right? So how do you do that? How can you create these multiple outcome pages inside of Bucket? Well, that's the big thing, and that's where, again, I know I mentioned this earlier, and you'll hear me repeat myself a lot when it comes to this point about starting with the outcomes and beginning with the end in mind, is because it's so much easier, but then it's also in Bucket, you kind of have to start there in order to use all the different features. So how do you use multiple outcome pages in Bucket? Well, first of all, I'm going to just pop over here real quick. I'm inside of a segmentation. So right now you can see I'm inside of Bucket, and I'm inside of a segmentation funnel already. All right. So if you don't know how to get to this section inside of Bucket, let's just take you to the dashboard here. So you log in. This is the screen you'll see. Then you'll go to Segment, and then what we're going to do is we're just going to edit this this existing segmentation funnel. Does that make sense? Did I lose anybody there? Does everybody kind of see how we get there? And yes, got it. Awesome. Cool. Cool. And I'm seeing your guys' questions. Just so you know, I am seeing them. I'm going to come back through here and we will get you completely answered up. My goal is to make sure no one gets left behind on this thing by the time we get to the Q&A section. All right. So let's do this. So I just want to show you real quick how do you create these outcome pages. Well, the first thing you do in the segmentation funnel section, I'm going to scroll to the very bottom. All right. And what you'll do is you'll drag this outcome box over here, and you'll have the option to create an outcome. And we already have them built for the proactive. So you can see, like I told you earlier, they've got a dry outcome, a dry skin outcome, an oily skin outcome, a normal combo face, a normal combo non-face, and their wrinkles anti-aging product. And as you can see here, what I did, I'm just clicked open on one of these. You can see that there's two types of outcomes. There's an outcome page and an external redirect. In this case, we're using that external redirect because they already have the pages built. So that literally all they're using Bucket for is to create that quiz and get that segmentation process so that they can serve up these products. All right. So you could do the same thing. So if you've got, let's say the doubles killer program or the quiz is the exact same way. So they've got, maybe 4 or 5 different types of outcome pages. And let me jump back over here to Bucket. They would start by creating each of these outcome pages. And one thing I want to point out here, and I actually have this on the slide, is that each one of these outcomes has its own letter. All right. This is going to be important for later on when we look at scoring, because again, remember I mentioned before, there's 2 types of quizzes. You could do a scoring quiz or just kind of like a branching logic type quiz, which is what's being used here. So notice that there is a letter for each of these outcomes. This is going to play a big part later on when we start doing the mapping, because again, now that you've got your multiple outcomes, your goal is of course to get people to the right outcome, right? It wouldn't do much good if you took somebody through a quiz and you spit them out to some, just random outcome that didn't actually solve their exact problem, right? That's the whole idea here. And the way that you set that up, let me make sure I covered everything on that. Yes, okay. So the way that you set it up is through mapping. Now, I don't know if you've ever tried to do this before Bucket, but to create a quiz like this in the past, it was ridiculously difficult. Programming it in, you'd have to hire a programmer. If there was maybe some other, Infusionsoft or other CRM, you could kind of hack something together. But at the end of the day, it almost always boiled down to hiring a programmer. With Bucket, it's a million times easier, and that's not even hype. That is for sure the truth. It's a million times easier to get the right people to the right outcomes through the quiz by setting it up in the segmentation funnels tool. So we have our outcomes here, okay? I just want to make sure I'm not leaving anybody behind. We've got outcomes, and now what we want to do is get people to the right outcome. And there's a couple ways we can do that. Number one is with this branching logic, okay? So I want you to take a notice here. We've got this first question, and you see this question, it just has, are you male or female? And once they answer that question, they're immediately taken to question number 2, all right? And now, in question number 2, I want you to notice that this little blue thing here is activated. See, it's kind of lit up where this one is gray. So what that means is that based on what you choose here, you're going to be taken to another part of the quiz. And so based on what choice you choose here, dry, oily, normal, or combo, you're going to be taken to another section of the quiz. And let me show you what that looks like. So you've got, to activate the branching logic, you just click on this little kind of branching icon here. And then based on the choice that they make, you can send them anywhere else in the quiz. So you've got these kind of, this first one here, dry, goes to this, you see this A, so everything goes to Q3, right? So everyone's going to go to this third question, but notice how they're broken down by A, B, and C. And I'm going to explain what that means here in a second. That's called a variation. I'm going to show you how to do it. Because here's the thing, everyone's going to need the same next question, but based on what the outcome will ultimately be, if you have dry skin, if you have oily skin, if you have normal or combo, you're going to go to a different outcome page, okay? And so by mapping people to this next question, what's happening now is you've got, instead of just a single opt-in page or a single path to get to a product, now you've created a branch, 3 different ways to get to a product. All right, so I'm going to hit save right here. And watch the little spinny circle. Real quick, I'm going to bounce over here to the questions, make sure everyone's on the same page. Are we all still here? Same page? Why can't we just have one Q3? They're all the same. Great question, Martin. That's exactly what I'm about to show you right now. Same thing with you, Kathy. You're asking why are some question options grouped, and I'm going to show you exactly why they do that. All right, so I'm going to pop this thing back over here. So let's take a look at that, right? Why would you have the exact same question broken down 3 different ways? Well, why don't I show you? So this is that Q3. This is what we just saw as the A, B, and C. This is called a variation, right? And the way that you create a variation, I'll show you what it means, but how you create it is when you mouse over the question that you're going to build, you've got this little box here that says create variation, right? And you just click that, and it'll add the variation to your question. So you notice before we only had A, B, and C, and now we have a D. I'm going to delete that one so I don't mess this thing up. All right, so let's take a look at what happens now. Why would we create multiple variations? So remember, I'm going to come back over here real quick. We're going to follow along here. So if you click dry, you go to the A variation, right? We close that. And if you click the A, or I'm going to click on the branching logic here on that A, just so you can see what happens when they get to this. So now, when you get to where do your breakouts mostly occur, now, if they're on this A version, this is going to get confusing until I show you how it works. So now, based on what they choose, the next answer, no matter what, on this one, they all go to the A of the next version, okay? But what happens over here? So let's click back. This will actually follow along with this thing so you can see how it works. So remember, male or female, I'll just click female. That one didn't have a branching logic, but now here's where the branching logic starts, okay? So when I click dry, now I'm on what's called the dry path. So I'm on the dry branch inside of bucket. So here, let's click back out of this. So I chose A on the skin type. So A took me to the A on Q3. All right, so now I'm in this dry branch. And this is why you have to start with the outcomes first, right? Because now we know we're trying to get this person, they said they're dry, so we're going to start working them towards the dry product, okay? So how often do you break out? Oops. What I meant to do here was show you the branching logic for how often do you break out. All right, so we're on A. Now, notice occasionally and frequently, they both go to the next A for question number 5. And then, on question number 5, let's go look at the outcomes. So based on all of the answers that they gave, all the way up to question 5, so we did, let's just say face, and occasionally, it looked like everything up to this point led them to this number 5. This is 5A, okay? So let's go look at this again. This is this screen right here, all right? Now look what happens. Based on what you choose on this screen, whether you choose acne, circles, or dark spots, you get sent to the dry skin outcome. But if you choose wrinkles, you get sent to the wrinkles anti-aging screen. So let's take a look at that, see how that worked. So let's just do under eye circles. See there? Now you've been taken straight to the dry skin based on all the answers that we gave. So what happened here, why we're doing that variation, excuse me, is because we wanted to get this person to the dry skin product once they started telling us what their issue was, right? We didn't want to accidentally send them to oily based on an answer that they gave on another question. So once they went on this dry skin path or the dry skin branch, we kept them on the dry skin path here. The same thing if they had chosen, what was the next one? Oily. Oily would have done something similar. I'll show you how that worked out. So let's say we had chosen oily, which was in this case B. So it would have taken us to this Q3, the variation, the B variation, right? So let's take a look at what happens when you answer these questions. Again, now you're on this oily path, so to speak. Is this making sense to everybody, or have I completely lost you here? Let's take a poll. Oh, I'm scrolling. If you scroll down, it goes the wrong way. All right. Yes, makes sense. I'm with you. I think I get it. I'm following. I got it. Cool. Martin says, it seems like we have to create a separate path for each outcome. That is one way of doing it. If you've got multiple outcomes, then and a certain one answer could ultimately take you to any one of those outcomes. Like, let's just say, for instance, you asked, if all they had were dry skin, oily skin, and here, let's go back over to the outcomes real quick, because this is where I think it's really going to hit home. So let's just say they only had dry, oily, or wrinkles, right? Like, those are the only outcomes. Well, then it would be a lot easier, right? You wouldn't need each of the variations. You would just say, are you dry or oily? And then based on what you chose, that's the product you get. But those aren't the only two options. You've got the normal combo face, you've got the normal combo non-face, right? So what if somebody had chosen back on any of these issues or any of these questions? Well, then they would have needed to forward that person down to the other outcome. And that is where the variations come in. So if you've got one answer, like in this case, your breakouts mostly occur. If that answer can go to more than one outcome, then it might be a good idea to use the variations. Does that make sense? So if you've got more products than you've got responses or the different answers, then at that point, that's when you need to create a branching logic so that you can take them on those paths, so that they don't end up with, so that, just because you have, let's just say, skin issues with your back, you don't end up with a wrinkle cream, right? Or just because you have dry skin, but you don't care about your wrinkles on your face, you don't end up with a face product. So hopefully that makes sense. And I know that's a pretty advanced, there's like the configuration of their products. You may not need that type of advanced, branching logic in your quiz. Let's just say, for instance, you've got 3 products that you offer. You would only need to, the potential of you needing to do all of this different branching logic is much less than if you had all these different configurations. Everybody with me? So I'm going to pull this thing up. Sorry, I just don't want to end up, I know as we kind of get in here and talk about all these different things, I don't want to end up leaving someone behind. All right, Crystal, can you real quick tell me what part didn't make sense to you, and I'll be happy to repeat it for you. Understand? All right. I've seen this question pop up multiple times, and it's a little bit different. But to answer your question, Yvonne, you can have multiple one-on-one calls. So if you've had one before and you want help with like this, with creating your own multiple outcome mapping, then feel free to request that at the end of this call. Okay. All right, so I see Fernando says, I got lost on the branching to multiple outcomes, and Crystal has 16 different outcomes. So in your case, Crystal, you would definitely want to start with your outcomes. So what you would do is create your outcome pages. So you would create your 16 different outcomes down here, right? And then as you're building the questions, to keep them on the path that would get them to the correct outcome, you would definitely want to build variations and use the branching logic to jump and stay in that correct path. Does that make sense? Awesome. Yvonne asked if it would be smarter to make a flowchart. Yes, it would. And I imagine when this was built, it was built with a flowchart. And I've seen one out there. I didn't have it for this, but you're absolutely right. Having a flowchart, building one for yourself, is certainly a smart move. Yeah, creating a mind map, a flowchart, whatever makes sense to you to build, so that you have this logic in place. So you're not over here, and again, this is all about starting with the end in mind, having your outcomes drawn, and then drawing your logic around that. Absolutely, very smart thing to do. So let's do this. Because I do want to definitely get you guys into the scoring functionality of bucket.io. So let's take a quick look at. So right now we've looked at how to set up multiple outcomes, right? And how to map your questions to those outcomes, and how to use branching logic and variations to create a path that gets you to the questions where you're mapping those outcomes. That's the first way of setting up one of these high converting quizzes, right? The second way is to use the scoring functionality inside of Bucket, which is more kind of like an AI, so to speak. And I'll show you how that works right now. I've actually got in another Bucket account here the back end of something that looks more like this. So what scoring lets you do is map multiple questions to multiple outcomes. So instead of using branching logic, what you would do is take the answers that someone gives you and add those together, equaling the outcome. And I'll explain what that means here in a second. But this is kind of an example. This is the example I'll walk you guys through real quick. Let me log out of this account real fast. And let me see here. My own. This is just a little test just to show you how the scoring feature works. I'm going to click on segment. And there we go. So this is the Madden quiz. These are all test leads in here. So we talked about, before we talked about using branching logic and variations. And now what we're going to look at is scoring. So what we've got here is we've got 3 different outcomes. We've got what's called the ground and pound, the air raid, and the West Coast. Okay. So what we're doing in this quiz, that we didn't do before, is that each one of these answers, each answer you give, maps to a specific outcome. So what we're going to look at here is choose your quarterback. All right. So this is a American football game called Madden, and so what we're asking people is to take this quiz to figure out what type of gameplay should you best use for when you're playing Madden. And the way we do that is to let them choose their. The first thing they're going to do is they're going to choose their quarterback. We've got Eli Manning. These are all quarterbacks. And what I meant to do was actually click on this mapping. So what happens here is that when you choose a quarterback, you map that that response to an outcome. So we know if you choose Eli Manning, you are going to be mapped to the West Coast outcome. The same thing with the Dak Prescott, you'll be mapped to the ground and pound, and the Aaron Rodgers and Tom Brady will be mapped to the air raid outcome. All right, this is making sense so far? You're mapping every one of your questions to an outcome. All right. Now, question 2, choose your receiver. Again, it's just another part of the game, right? You've got your quarterback, you've got your receiver, you've got your running back. So on the receiver, based on what you choose, you're being mapped to an outcome again. And now what bucket.io is doing in the background is they're adding these together. So if before you chose a quarterback that mapped to the West Coast, and you come over here and choose a receiver that maps to West Coast, in this case it's tight end Rob Gronkowski, then now you've got two questions that you've answered that says, hey, this guy really seems to be picking the things that are going to put him in the West Coast outcome. All right, and then let's say you come and choose this last running back here. I meant to click on the actual outcome. And let's say you chose, in this case, Adrian Peterson. Well, that takes you to ground and pound, right? So what happens here, then what happens at the end is Bucket takes a look at how many options you chose, and whichever one you chose the most, Bucket will serve you that response. So in this case here, let's pull this thing up for preview, just so you can see how the scoring works in real life. So we start the quiz, and we remember Eli Manning was West Coast offense, like his outcome was West Coast. Same thing if you choose, Rob Gronkowski, and then you choose, let's just say Adrian Peterson here, and then you choose your skill level. And I'm going to put this test in. And see here where it took us to West Coast offense. So that outcome was based on choosing two of the answers of the questions that were mapped to West Coast. So out of 3 questions that had mapping, here, jump back over here real quick. These 3 questions all have mapping. 2 out of those 3 went to this outcome called West Coast. And that's why Bucket says, well, since he chose 2, this is most likely what this person is going to need, this outcome based on their score. So what it does is it adds each of the choices that you make, the answers that are mapped to those, the outcomes that are mapped to those questions, it adds them together and gives you that outcome. So I want to make sure I did not leave you guys in the dust on that one. I know that's kind of a big one there. So let me pull up this chat again and make sure we're all on the same page. Questions. All right. So let's go through some of these. What would happen if all 3 were different? That is a great question, Martin. So I'm going to answer all of these right quick because there's been a few that popped up on this section. If all 3 were different, the way that Bucket handles that scoring situation is it always goes to the highest, the letter closest to A. So let's say A, B, and C, right? You had 1A, 1B, and 1C. What Bucket would do is it would automatically mark you to A, all right? So in that scenario, where we had 2 that were C and 1 that was A, then the situation weighted towards the C outcome. So you were given that West Coast, as you saw when we went through it. But if we had done an A, B, and C, A would have been the winner on that one. So that would have been the outcome that you would have gotten. Likewise, if let's say there were 4 questions and you had 2 B's and 2 C's, B would be the winner in that tiebreaker. So that's another thing that you need to be aware of when you're building your quiz or your scoring quiz is, if the person chooses um, these responses, which one are they most likely to be? Which of these are they most likely to be? And let's make sure I did not lose you on that. All right, so I've got a couple of, quite a few questions that popped up here. So let me walk through some of this. All right. When you send people to results page link, can you use UTM codes to indicate some of their answers? Yeah, you can do that. I'll get into that here shortly. That's a great question. Jill asked, "Is there ever a tie?" Yes, and the way that Bucket handles the tie is, of course, like I just mentioned, it pushes you closest to the letter closest to A. And Ron has used this one before. Cool. Looks like a lot of people asked if it was all three were different. So it looks like we handled that one. Can it tell you which is the best client and what product they want at what price? That's a little bit tougher, Richard. You probably, again, what you're looking at, and again, this boils down to the outcome. If that is how your outcomes are built, then yes, you can do that. But you're always going to start with the outcomes, and then from there you build your questions to lead people to the outcome that best fits the answers that they gave. So that's why you always, and most of these questions could probably be answered with, if you start with the outcome, you will get the answer that you're looking for. Rob says, does it only add the outcomes from each question, or can you weight different answers for scoring? So in the way that this current bucket is set up is it only does it based on the letter. So you notice how I pointed out earlier, the letter for each outcome, that is how the scoring works. So it's not like you can't give one answer a certain score and then another one and then add them together at the end. That's less of a quiz and more of like a test, right? As far as the quizzes go on here. Did I identify, okay, Lucia, you asked, did I identify somewhere that this was a scoring quiz, or is it just by selecting the funnel outcome and mapping it to outcomes that Bucket automatically knows it's scoring? So that's what it is. In Bucket world, a scoring quiz is one that's based on, it scores the number of times a certain outcome was chosen in the quiz itself. So by scoring, it means how many times was A chosen, how many times was B chosen, how many times was C chosen, and then the winner of those is the outcome. Cool. All good? Awesome. Awesome. Oops. Let's see here. Martin asks, is this an option that we select? So no. Basically what you do is if you're going to use this type of quiz, you just map each question to a here, let me kind of jump back over here real quick. To use this style of outcome mapping, you just map each question to an outcome that each question that matters for your outcome, you map it to the outcome. If you're going to use the other style, you use the branching logic to one question that has the mapping. Does that make sense? That's right. If you map directly to an outcome, Bucket will calculate every time that outcome is mapped. And here's kind of one of the things you can look at is for each of these questions up here, you see it's got how many, this one's got 4, 4, 4. So it's mapped to 4 different outcomes, each question. And then you can come down here and see how many times a specific outcome is mapped to, right? So you can see 3 questions mapped to the ground and pound, 5 questions mapped to, or responses mapped to air raid, and 4 to the West Coast. So you can kind of get an idea of what is happening in your quiz, just a one look. Let me make sure I covered all of these. Counts the number of times the mapped outcome has been selected. Got that. Case of a tie, the highest outcome letter closest to A is the winner. So again, when you're plotting out the intelligence, keep that in mind. All right, and then again, I've kind of walked you guys through all these. The mapping, you can do it with both a checkbox and a radio button. So just keep that in mind. When you can't, obviously you can't map to something based on what they type in to one of the text fields, right? It has to be a checkbox or a radio box. You map the answer to the best outcome. And again, we've already discussed using the variations of branching logic to direct your outcome choices. So again, there's 3 steps to multiple outcome mapping. You always want to start with the outcomes, no matter what. Think of all of your possible outcomes that you plan on using. Again, those could be problems, they could be products, they could be product configurations that solve problems. But at the end of the day, you're looking for that outcome page where you're making your offer. Then you set up the scoring options, whether you're going to be using the mapping for each question, or if you're going to be using the branching logic in a single question mapping. And then, of course, you create the quiz. So, like I told you guys before, I definitely want to do, I'm going to use the rest of the time here, and I don't even mind going over if you want to stick around to get your questions answered. I will do this real quick. If you have to get out of here, if all this did was kind of confuse you, or if it blew up your imagination, and now you're thinking, oh my goodness, I totally want to do something like this, but I didn't really get what he meant about this or that or the other. This would be a good place for you to schedule a one-on-one call. And so what I'm going to do real quick here, actually have the link in here. I'm going to jump over real quick, grab you guys the link to schedule a one-on-one call if you want to do that. And basically, like I said before, if you are using Bucket, whether you're even to a point yet where you are doing advanced quiz building like this, or if you just want to do a single segmentation question and you just want to know how to set it up, or does the one that you currently have set up, does it look right? Does it work right? Do you want some eyeballs on it before you start, paying for traffic to it? Anything like that, this would be a great time for you to schedule a one-on-one call with either myself or one of the bucket.io specialists. So what I did, real quick, I put this link in the chat. I'm going to get to the Q&A in a second, but if you guys could real quick just let me know if you see the link I just put in there. Just say yes, I see it, or no, I didn't get it. Awesome, awesome. All right, cool. Looks like you guys are seeing it. So we're going to drag this thing out a little bit. Okay, cool. You guys got it. So Ernie says, can I show the last slide again? I absolutely can. Which one? What did it have on it? Ernie? Talking about, probably not this one. Are you talking about this one? About adding the quiz questions? That's for you, Ernie. Yeah. So if that's what you're looking for, I'm happy to cover anything that we just covered here. If it's branching logic, if it's again the scoring, if you just want me to walk through a couple more of these examples, I mean, I'm happy to do any of these with you. Just again, the one with the 3 steps. Maybe one more. All right, Martin. Martin's asking for one more example, and I've got one. So raise your hand if you want. Say one more example if you want me to watch another. If you want to do another example. Yeah, sure. Yes, please. Sure. 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 One more example. All right. All right. Fine. You guys got me. I'll do one more example. So this example, you guys might actually know who this is. His name is Michael Hyatt. And he created an assessment. He called it the platform assessment inside of Bucket. And the way that this works is once you start the assessment up, you go through and you start answering questions that that basically start segmenting you towards the products or services that Michael Hyatt offers. All right. So he's got you. He asks, have you defined your message? Maybe you have, maybe you haven't. But anyway, so you start answering these questions, and based on, I believe it's this question here. This one is actually a single segmentation. Based on what you choose here is the outcome that you're going to get on the thank you or the outcome page. So let's say we're going to do overwhelm, right? And say I don't really have an online presence. And what we're doing here is we're just going to go through and answer each of these questions. And then based on our responses, let's see what Mr. Hyatt has to sell us. As you can see, this one's totally different than the other two quizzes. The others use like high graphic usage. They're real short and punchy. This one, I'm guessing Mr. Hyatt sells a product that's probably a little more expensive than the $30 skin treatment or the $20 tennis training videos. So something along these lines, he really wants to get to know the person and understand what their issues are so that when he makes his outcome or his product pitch to you, he nails it right on the head. So let's do this. Let's just say Jeremy. Let's do test bucket. And so based on what we just entered in, now you've got this, let's see, your platform needs strategic implementation. So this video will go into Michael Hyatt explaining how the platform that I'm working in needs a strategic implementation. Again, based on the answers that I gave in that questionnaire where I just went and answered, I don't know how many questions. That was like 10 or 15 questions. But again, it looks like he's got a free webinar that puts you into his funnel. So he segmented me by having me take an assessment that asked the right questions, and based on what I chose, now he's got me marked in this outcome page. And the way that, just in looking at it, the way that they've done this outcome is, it looks like it's based on that single segmentation. I think I heard them talking about it. So that basically that one question, here we'll kind of jump back over here to bucket, that one question, here, I'll just choose, I think this is a single segmentation. Based on what that one question did, that was the outcome that I was mapped to. So like on this one, you see how you just map to an outcome? So no matter what, based on what I choose here, even if I don't have any other outcome on any other questions, that is where I get sent to. So that's what that example is. That's actually great because now we've looked at what a single segmentation question does, a question or a mapping on every question does, multiple outcome mapping, and then of course the branching logic mapping outcomes. So there you folks have it. Let's see. I'm going to pull up. Sorry guys. Typically I will have someone kind of fielding some of these questions, but just because right now I'm doing it, our Q&A might go a little bit over. Totally fine. I'm going to get you guys helped out here. All right. So I've got how the world's quizzes was the title of the webinar. Are you saying that branching logic and scoring answers the title question? Yvonne asked, branching logic and scoring, is that the answer to how the world's most successful quizzes work? Actually, no. What I'm saying is the most successful quizzes use multiple outcomes. That's it. Being able to map to multiple outcomes is your key to getting a higher conversion rate, and that's what the most successful quizzes in the world use. They don't send you they don't have you answer all those questions just to take you to the same old outcome page. And again, that's at the end of the day, that's what you're striving to do, is being able to offer that the most customized version of your outcome and your sales pitch as possible. That's what separates the men from the boys. or the girls from the ladies. Let's see what else we got here. Oh, all right. All right. Thank you, Jeremy. Oh, you're all good. Okay. Do you find that the order of questions has any influence to the answers? Oh, you're saying the order of the answers on each of the questions. I say the order of the questions definitely matters. The order to the answer, it depends. It depends on how engaging you're. So the question is, I'm going to read this question out loud again. Do you find that the order of questions has any influence to the answers? I think the order of questions has to do with how many people finish your quiz. So you want to ask, those kind of grease the slide, are you male or female? You definitely want to ask that first, right? You would ask that before you would ask what kind of, here, we'll go back here to the proactive, and I'll just kind of show you. So you definitely want to ask, are you male or female, before you ask anything else, right? That kind of sets the stage that this person is actually going to tell me what my issue is, right? So if you start down this male path, and then, but if you're asking me, does it matter what kind of order these are in? I don't think it does. Like if you're asking the order of the choices, I don't think that matters. I do definitely think the order of the questions matters, because you would need to have the skin type before you ask how many breakouts occur, right? It would be kind of weird if you said how often do your breakouts occur, and then ask the type of skin. It would be very difficult for someone to kind of put those two together. Let's see. Yes, I've got a couple more people asking if there will be a replay. Yes, there will. Okay, Roberto asked, is it difficult to combine the two methods into one quiz? That's another great question. And honestly, no, it's not. So again, it's all going to come down to you and your planning, right? If you don't start with the outcome, it's going to be impossible. But when you do start with the outcomes, you might find that you ask a question and get to the let's say you're using branching logic to get to your kind of that last set of questions, right? And then just to give it one more question that has multiple mapping on it, just to kind of see, was I right with that first question? Can I add one more question to really solidify what the answer is? Then you could totally do that. So what I mean by that is, let's go back into, crap, I already closed the, let me see if I can close, I'm going to see if I can get into the other one. See if I saved it into my thing. Yeah. All right, let me just show you guys kind of like what I mean by this. So if you wanted to add another, here we go. So let's say you wanted to add another, or if you wanted to use kind of a combo, right? So we've got the branching logic, and then we get down to this last question where we actually do the outcome mapping, right? Well, what if we wanted to say, you know what, based on what you chose here, I really wanted to give it one more, kind of like a backup question, right? To really make sure oily is the best outcome, or whatever the next outcome is. Then you could definitely add two questions here. So let's say we add just another question. Then you could make each one of these questions map to a specific outcome as well. So to answer your question, no, it's not difficult at all to combine the two different types of quiz. You're welcome. Multiple outcomes. If you create this in bucket.io, can you implement directly on your website, newsletter, or email? Or do you need another analytics software to keep track of everything? So you can keep track of everything inside of Bucket. But if you are going to send an email out or follow up with these people and send emails, you will definitely need like an Infusionsoft or an Aweber or MailChimp, whatever, Drip, ActiveCampaign, whatever your email is. Bucket does not send emails. All Bucket does is the analysis, the segmentation, and then you send all this off to your email service provider. The cool thing is, though, is that every response that someone gives you inside their inside the quiz, so each one of these questions that they answer, you can send this off to your email service provider so that you'll always know who your men are and who your women are when you're sending out emails. You'll know who your oily skin users are or who your dry skin users are. So anytime you want to do, let's say like if Proactive was going to do a sale, they don't collect emails, but let's say they did. If they wanted to do a sale to everyone who was let's say they didn't buy, but they went through the quiz and they're a dry skin person. They would send a promotion out, 25% off all our moisturizing programs. You see what I'm saying? So instead of sending them 25% off our entire stock, they continue to market to the person based on the solution that the person said that they needed from the answers that they gave in the quiz. And that's the difference between this like one size fits all marketing and then this highly segmented marketing that you use in your quizzes. Let's see, Christine asked, when would you use a quiz as opposed to a survey? That is another great question. So a survey, think about it like this. With a survey, you're asking questions and you're looking for insight. Notice you're not really looking for insight with a segmentation funnel. You're just trying to get their answers so that you can direct them to the best product. With a survey, you're looking for answers, and you're not really selling anything on the back end of a survey. You're just asking them questions so that later on you can use that. But the easiest way to know is if you currently, and this is what I ask everybody like on a one-on-one call, I'd say, hey, do you currently know exactly what all your segments are? And if the answer is no, then you need to run a survey and figure out what those segments are. Like what are those outcomes that you need to offer? Because if you don't know that, then you need to go find out with a survey. If you do know what all of your outcomes are, and you know the questions that you need to ask to get someone to that outcome, then you need a segmentation funnel. And so another thing is too is if you're not going to want to run a survey as a lead gen tactic. You're going to want to run a survey to an audience that you know who they are, so that you can really understand what responses they're giving you. The segmentation funnel, on the other hand, is something you would run as a sales or a lead gen tool. So hopefully that helps. Okay. In Typeform, can you use a question answer in an upcoming question? That's another fantastic question from Crystal. And the answer is yes, you can do that. It's in a different section. And you know what? I'll be honest with you. This is something that a lot of people don't take advantage of. And it's right here. It's super simple to do. It's over. What I just did is I clicked on the configure screen. And I'll show you how to do it. So it's over here. It looks like it's two brackets, but it kind of looks like an electric socket. If you click on that, it's called field logic. And then what you'll do is you take the question, so in this case, let's say male or female, and you call it gender, right? And then on male, you'd say, male. Or you could say man, or at this point, you could basically use whatever you want. We'll just say for now, we'll just do male. In fact, you probably want to do like lowercase. So what I've just done here, and when I hit save changes, what I've just done here, guys, is now anytime after they answer the question, are you male or female, I can say, I can go back over into, oh my goodness, did I really do that? I can go back over into my questions, and say this. So again, it's not going to make a lot of sense because I'm just kind of making it up. But you would do something like this: as a gender, how would you describe your skin type? And then what it would do is it would tell me. Here, I'll show you real quick, just so you can see what it looks like and what we just did here. Let's go preview. Just so you guys can see the question that Crystal asked, because it's a great question. So I just click male. So you see here it says, as a male, how would you describe your skin type? So that is how you can use question or responses, answers from previous questions at different parts of your quiz. Does that make sense? Cool. Gretchen wants to know, do we have exercises on how to map out the rest of the funnel or more examples, please? I'd love to get started, but kind of overwhelmed and making sure I ask the right questions. It's brilliant learning about outcomes and starting with it first. Thank you. Gretchen, I really do. That's a great question. And I think that by itself, I think that actually deserves its own training on how to map these things out. Because right now we don't have like the outcome, like the mind mapping, the lucid chart. Like, how do you go about mapping one out? I think that's a great training. And what I would do if I were you, I would actually, I'm going to take, you know what? You don't have to do anything. I'm going to take this question and I'm going to see what we can do about that. The answer is no, but definitely a brilliant question to ask and definitely an idea I think that we need. Gretchen asked, do we have examples of the drawings of, like a mind map for one of these things? Like, how do you strategize building these things out? The only thing I can tell you that you really want to consider is what questions would you ask somebody if they were sitting in front of you to find out which of your outcomes they should have. Like, that's where you need to start. How do you know if you're asking the right questions? Again, I think, okay, I see it's Gretchen. So yeah, so the thing is, again, if you start with the outcomes, you can't really go wrong. Because if you think to your mind, okay, if somebody has this outcome, this issue, if they need this product, these are the questions I need to know for sure to make sure this is the best product for them. Like, that's the only thing I can tell you right now. I definitely agree that we should, it would be a good idea to show you how do you go about mapping something like that out? We don't have that right now, but it's a good one. I think that would be a great use of you guys. If you switch email servers, can you move the info? Okay, yes, because the cool thing about Bucket is it stores everything. So let's jump back over here real quick. And in your analytics for each of your things here, you have the ability, and I probably don't need to click on this, but if you click on responses, there's a way for you to download all the responses into a CSV format, which most email providers will let you upload leads to their system in a CSV format. I don't want to click on it right here because I don't know how many email addresses and people's contact information is in there. But does that make sense? Awesome. All right. Christine says you're beyond help. No, you're not. Get on one of those one-on-ones, and that will be helpful to you. Okay. Yvonne says, if you want to change the survey or quiz, you'll lose the answers. Is there a way around this? The only way around it is to create a clone. Right now, the only way around, Yvonne asked, if you want to make a change to your funnel or your survey and you already have responses in it and you make those changes, it'll delete all of the responses. The only way right now to get around that is to make a clone and edit the clone, and then use the link to that one for your next your next round. If I didn't get to you, just so you guys know, it looks like there's it looks like I do have some helpers kind of in the background answering questions. I can't even really tell anymore. So here's the thing. I absolutely want to make sure you get your questions answered, especially if you're trying to build one of these segmentation funnels. And so I'm going to go ahead. Let me do this one more time. I'm going to put one more, the link to the one-on-one call in here again. Oh, wrong one. I'm going to drop one more link in here for you guys. Again, you're 100% welcome to get on one of these one-on-one calls and just have me or a bucket specialist. It'll probably be me. Just look at what you've got going on. I mean, if you just can't even figure out if you're even in the right spot inside the bucket, this is perfect for that. I'm going to put this link in here one more time. Because we're about 10 minutes after, and I know you guys want to get out of here. You've got lives to lead. You've got quizzes to build. You've got surveys to serve. And I want to make sure you get out of here on time, or at least without, keeping you here against your will. Take one last kind of look. Make sure nothing new is here. Thank you very much. No, thank you. I really do, guys. Thank you guys so much for getting on these and asking these questions. They're super helpful. And again, like the one about the mind mapping, I think that's a great topic for a webinar. Thanks a million. No, thank you a billion. Awesome, guys. Thank you guys so much. I got that link out there. I'm gonna paste it one more time just so you have it. Go schedule a one-on-one. You've been great. Thank you, Crystal. Jill, thank you. Roberto's starting to get his noggin around this whole thing. Good, great. Guys, thank you guys so much. There is Anita. Awesome. Thank you for coming. I'm glad you're feeling better, Amanda. That's exactly what we want to make sure. Again, we want you guys, running these big time, what do we say, the world's most successful? We want you being the world. We want you doing some world's most successful quizzes around here. That's why we made this thing. That's why we made Bucket. All right, folks, I'm out of here. Thank you so much, and have a wonderful evening. We'll talk to you again soon, maybe very soon if you got yourself one of those one-on-one calls. Take care.